Who loves seeing their favorite baseball player hit 30 plus home runs in a season? I'm here today to discuss the pros and cons of using steroids in professional baseball. I've played baseball since I was 4 years old, and I've loved the game ever since I started. I've done a lot of research and found different facts and opinions on the pros and cons of using steroids in professional baseball. Baseball has been an important part of American history since it began, and I'm here today to discuss one of the biggest controversies involving Major League Baseball. The three main ideas behind using steroids in professional baseball are the pros of using steroids, the cons of using steroids, and how the current use of steroids in Major League Baseball affects people's opinions. Steroids have always been a major discussion in Major League Baseball on whether or not they should be used or should not be used. There are many different pros involving the use of steroids in professional baseball. People argue that grown adults should be allowed to use steroids and choose what they want to put into their own bodies. People also argue that steroids would benefit Major League Baseball. People also say that there are more harmful things you can put into your body than steroids. One argument that has always been involved in the doping debate is whether or not grown men should be allowed to choose what they want to put into their own bodies. James Kirkup is a professional writer who focuses on baseball, and he states on procon.org that the important point is that as long as the participants are grown adults making informed decisions about the possible consequences, there should be no restrictions on what an athlete can do. If baseball players were not professional athletes, they could choose to take steroids whenever they wanted to. Does Major League Baseball really have the right to tell them what they can and cannot put into their own body? Dr. Bennett Foddy is a professor of bioethics at the University of Princeton. He claims on procon.org that the removal of doping controls would have major benefits on sports. Less cheating, increased solidarity and respect among players, and more focus on sport and not on rules. If there was no rule saying you couldn't use steroids, nobody would complain about someone who is using steroids, and everyone could choose to do so or not. A lot of people argue that there are so many more harmful things that people do to their bodies than use steroids. Dr. Norman Foss is the director of medical ethics program at the University of Wisconsin. Dr. Foss said, "We allow people to do far more dangerous things than play football or baseball while using steroids. Steroids are so low on the list of drugs or diets that can cause harm, I don't understand why we would start there." Drugs are a big problem when it comes to athletes. They typically have the wealth and resources to be able to purchase drugs, and most people argue that Major League Baseball and other sports should focus more on stopping athletes from using drugs than performance-enhancing steroids. There are many different opinions on why steroids should be allowed in professional baseball. Many people believe grown men should be allowed to choose what they put into their body or what they choose not to put into their body. Other people agree steroids would benefit Major League Baseball, and other people say there are more harmful things to put into your body than steroids. As you can see, there are definitely several pros to using steroids in professional baseball. But where there is a pro, there is always a con. Just like any other major debate, there are always reasons why not to do something. Here are some major cons to using steroids in professional baseball. The biggest worry of steroids being legal is the effect on the younger generation. Dr. Thomas Murray states, "Not everyone will resort to doping, but if we remove legal controls and the stigma attached to it, many will. The likely result is a public health crisis with particularly dire consequences for younger people. People are afraid that if kids see their athlete heroes taking steroids and that they're allowed to, that they will start taking steroids at a younger age. And steroid usage for minors is extremely dangerous because it can stunt their growth and hurt them overall in their development." I had the chance to call one of our family friends who is an orthopedic surgeon at Aurora, and he specializes in shoulders. Dr. Hennigan said, "The use of steroids greatly increases the athlete's risk of muscle and bone damage. I strongly discourage everyone from using steroids no matter what the situation is." Steroids can cause harm to the body, as our family friend said, which is a legitimate reason why people want them to stay out of baseball and sports as a whole. In 2005, Major League Baseball made a commercial on why they believe steroids should not be used. After filming the commercial, the producer, Jimmy Siegel, said, "We took this classical discus thrower, which represented the ideal athletic body, and we thought, what if we literally destroyed the statue?" The purpose of this commercial was to show on live television to an audience at an MLB All-Star game how steroids affect the human body. They took a statue of an athletic-looking, well-fit man, and they just had it crumble in front of the audience, and they stated, This is what happens, this is what steroids do to your body. There are just as many arguments for steroid use as there are for against steroid use in professional baseball. How does the current use of steroids affect people's opinion on whether they should be legal or not? Steroid use is already a huge factor in professional baseball, even though it is illegal. Dr. Bennett Foddy claims it would be much easier to eliminate the anti-doping rules than to eliminate doping. The current policy is hard to prove, expensive, and difficult to police. In the near future, it may become impossible to stop. If so many athletes are getting away with using steroids when they are illegal, people argue that they should just make them illegal so everyone has the fair opportunity to use performance-enhancing drugs if they so choose. Dr. Gary Becker, a lifelong baseball fan, discusses how difficult it is to actually regulate the rules of steroid usage. While the case for banning various types of drugs and other enhancers is strong, he says the ability to control doping is limited, for there is a continuing battle between bans and the discovery of new enhancers that have not been banned. It is basically impossible to stop everyone from cheating. So if some people are going to get away with cheating and using steroids, people say that everyone should have the fair opportunity and it would make baseball more competitive. The current steroid situation in Major League Baseball is not working. Many people just want to eliminate the steroid policy for good. Others explain why it is difficult to catch all the cheaters and how steroids can evolve and change, which makes them not technically illegal. In conclusion, I have now given you a lot to think about when it comes to the doping debate. There are a lot of pros and cons to steroids in sports. The current situation in professional sports has been the same for the past several years, but it could drastically change if steroids were legalized. The list of pros and cons for steroids in professional baseball goes on and on. Where do your thoughts lie among that list?
That was good.